Hi guys, Dr. Mary Renzel here, talking about negotiations. When I say the word negotiation, I can feel like my heart rate jumping already, and I'm just sitting here talking about negotiations. So negotiation has a lot of baggage for me, and I already get sympathetic response from it. So that's like my brain thinking, like, are we negotiating now? Like, no, no brain, we're good. Deep breath, we're good. We're just talking about negotiations. So that's one thing we do in Brain Fresh is we talk about how we can manipulate our sympathetic, parasympathetic systems, our brain settings, so that we can even out a little bit. Because I just got that little sympathetic push just talking about negotiations because the brain thinks I'm going to negotiate now, but we're not. We're just talking. So why are we talking about negotiations? Well, I'm Dr. Mary Renzel. I help purpose-driven women docs focus their time and energy to feel empowered and live fully in their unique gifts and strengths for greater impact in this world. Negotiations come up regularly in medicine. We negotiate with our teams, we negotiate with our bosses, we negotiate with our patients. And negotiations can be defined as a discussion where we're both looking for certain outcomes, right? So it helps me to say discussion. I have way less sympathetic response to talking about discussions rather than negotiations. So, it's a little tricky to talk about negotiations because that word always seems like it's behind closed doors. So we have to kind of break open negotiations and kind of dissect it a little bit. So we can define it as simply a discussion between two people or more where each one has a goal of the discussion, right? And think about how often that would happen. I mean, I'm a mom of four. I'm usually maybe negotiating with my kids. Unfortunately, I've taught them negotiation tricks and tips. And so they use it on me on the down low. And then at work, sometimes we're negotiating something minor, just like a parking spot or a schedule or something major, like your salary, your benefits, a new position, or you're helping someone that you really care about, to negotiate, maybe somebody you mentored, or you coached, or somebody that you care for, like, my older kids are now learning how to negotiate as they're young adults. So negotiation is a bit of a mind game, right? So we have to, number one, frame it that it's a discussion where we both can quote unquote win, or we can both come away with things that we wanted to happen within this discussion. We can learn how to prepare our brain for negotiating. I call that brain priming. This is what we do within Brain Fresh. We learn how to brain prime, which is to give the brain support, learn how to manipulate the brain a bit, learn how to protect it, so that it can fully function and it can see all its opportunities and it can stay creative and it can perceive all the, especially the nonverbal communication that's coming across from somebody that you're negotiating with. We also learn how to align within Brain Fresh. So that's when we align with our gifts and our strengths. And we're also assessing, how's the culture? Do we feel like we belong here? We learn some tools on how to assess, like, what is the culture here? Is it one of, you just blatant honesty? Do we need to be a little political? Like, what are we doing here? And then we also need to assess our co-negotiator style, like who are they? What's important to them? Because we want to make sure we're speaking towards something that would, we want to use language that speaks towards their goals. And we want to know their negotiation style. There's a great book called The Black Swan. It's by Chris Voss. I think that's what it's called. And it's a negotiation book and it's got a lot of tips and tricks on negotiation. So check that out. If you can't find it, give me a DM and I'll make sure I get the right name for you. But recently, Simon Sinek was talking about it. Simon Sinek is a global speaker. He's an author. He talks a lot about neuroscience. He is not a neuroscience expert, but he had figured out that indeed neuroscience is the key to deep purpose and meaning at work, so that we have parts of the brains that are nonverbal, meaning that we have that feeling like, ooh, that's, we have that deep feeling that's really meaningful to us. And it's hard for us all to put it into words what that is. And we might say that's deep in our soul or deep in our heart, but it's actually a part of our brain that's nonverbal. And it's hard to say, to put that into words. So we might say, oh, that has deep purpose or deep meaning to us. So we want to get to that, like what is really important to us. And you might, one trick, I heard a TED talk on this, and they talked about define your deep purpose. First thing you could talk about, is those like dinner table conversations, dinner party conversations where people will say, hey, what do you do? How do you do that? Where'd you train? Those kind of things. But instead you can start with the question, how do you make people feel? So that's an interesting one. If you thought about your day today, like when you were interacting with people, how do you make people feel? I did this once with our residents, and they said, I want to make people feel heard and valued and seen. I like to make people feel empowered with neuroscience tools within Brain Fresh. That's what we do. So Simon Sinek said, well, hey, instead of saying yes, no, and you don't have to say you checked out the salary and my friend is earning more or they're earning more down the street. You can say, hey, my aspiration is to stay with this company. You can see that I've been busy with this company and I've done this and this, and you can see I'm devoted to this company. And can you help me figure out a path to remain at this company with this salary, this X salary, whatever you would like, or whatever you're asking for, if you're asking for more benefits or a new position. So there's really not a yes, no answer there. They may say, I can help you figure that out, but you need to hit X, Y, and Z goals. And over time, we'll try to get you to that salary. So that was Simon Sinek's advice on negotiating. So why don't you put in the chat, DM me, what negotiation tips you have, which ones have worked for you. We at Brain Fresh, we use brain priming, where we get ourselves in really good shape before negotiating so that we don't go in stressed or hungry or tired. And we learn those sympathetic, parasympathetic manipulations, or how to change our setting. So we're ready for a discussion and to hopefully achieve our goals and to have the other person also achieve their goals. So we brain prime regularly, we align with our gifts and our strengths. And then we also design a pathway forward for the long win, right? So it's not the short-term situation of this job. You're thinking of the long win. So he said, again, you help me figure out a path to remain here with this salary. So that was Simon Sinek's advice. So let me know what you think of that. Would you use that line? Does that mean anything to you? But thank you for your attention, and feel free to check me out at brainfresh.org. I'm Dr. Mary Rensel. I help purpose-driven women docs focus their time and energy to feel empowered and to live fully in their unique gifts and strengths so they have more impact in this world. Take care.